And welcome back to the Alpha Strike podcast. We are your hosts, Bobby, Ezel, Red, Powell, and Daniel Hesters. We will be exploring how to strike first, strike hard, and show no mercy in the world of 40K. And while doing so, we will be discussing everything from tactics to tournaments and hobby related to Warhammer 40K. Now, tonight we have Thomas Byrd, who, unless I am mistaken, is currently the number 3 Space Marine player in ITC rankings, and he's going to talk to us about Ultramarines. Because if there's anybody we should ask about Ultramarines, it's probably Thomas. And so we're just going to talk about the new Space Marine stuff. A lot of people have seen the points changes. A lot of people have seen the leaks. So I'll turn it over to Daniel and Thomas at this point.
Guys. So Thomas, you've been a general staff member for ever since basically the creation. You've been a big influence of the Southeast and starting to branch out more with even pro tabletop. So go ahead and introduce yourself and what you've been up to lately.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, guys. So my name's Thomas Byrd, for those folks who don't know me. I do play a lot of games here in the Southeast, predominantly for the last 2 years, all Ultramarines. So I usually kind of buck the trend of having mixed armies, and I really like the boys in blue. So I've just been playing that rowboat in all his various iterations, as many of the guys around here are kind of tired of seeing. But I do pretty well. I do like the hobby side of it, and I do really enjoy the sportsmanship piece of it. But overall, play a lot of games around here with a lot of good folks with the general staff and around the Southeast, and a lot of tournaments. But yeah, so from a hobby perspective, Marines, super excited about the new stuff. From a tournament perspective, we just wrapped up Warzone Giga-Bites III, so we do a lot of Warzone. I mean, we're part of the group that puts on Warzone Atlanta, so that's near and dear to my heart. But I have recently branched out a lot into the ITC kind of games and scoring. So I had the number 1 spot for Marines. I dropped down a couple. I'm hoping once the Giga-Bite numbers post, I may be able to retake my throne of number 1. But yeah, a lot of success. And then pro tabletop, we'll talk a little bit about that. That's something brand new that we're kind of investing in. It's very exciting, something that's a little bit changed to the format that we're used to seeing. But you know, a big $10,000 cash prize. It's right on the tail end of Warzone end of this year. So pretty excited about telling you guys about that, sharing what's coming up.
Well, and I'm just going to step in real quick because save Thomas from tooting his horn here. But I mean, not just the Southeast. Like, there's a lot of people that I know that we really appreciate that listen to Alpha Strike. That I mean, we saw you at Adepticon when you took 7th place, right? I mean, your army's been on display. That massive the Stormbird, right?
That's mine. Yeah.
They spell Stormbird with a Y, right? I mean, I'm just saying, like, you've got the one when we talk about a Stormbird on display, like as far as the hobby goes. And so for some of the listeners out there, I mean, when people ask me, well, you know, what do you think of Space Marines or whatever? Well, I just kind of peek down there to Georgia and see what Thomas Byrd's playing. And so for some of the listeners out there, like, this is the guy. This is when I said, like, hey, like, let me see what's going on in regards to the guy I know who plays. I mean, when you say you've been playing Ultramarines, I know you cheat a little bit. You bring in an assassin. I know it's not, rules is written, but you bring in an assassin now and then, right? That's some flexibility that it allows you thanks to the new stratagem. But you really have been playing Ultramarines specifically. I mean, RG, the Leviathan, the now you've been playing the Repulsor. I mean, you've been playing that into the dirt to the point where for some of these players out here, what I want to stress is that this is a case in point of a player who has taken an army that a lot of people say couldn't be played to whatever extent and has refined playing those exact models, right? We've got a lot of people out there that are chasing the meta one way or the other, and you've played the exact same models almost over and over, maybe different variations of them, but you've still brought them in and you know how to wield them, right? And there's something to that I think a lot of people could take away. And again, I don't mean to shower you with too much here, but this is a case in point, just like Daniel with Knights and Bob with Talon tanks before and the Camels, and then, now Necrons and myself with Necrons and with focusing on something and building that proficiency, that kind of competency, is it's just, I want to put that out there that Space Marines were not to be underestimated beforehand in the hands of the right pilot, right? And so that's my little interjection of the corner for this. But the show must go on, so let me shut up.
Well, thanks for that. Real quick, yeah. I mean, we have I'm lucky to live where I live, and we have a lot of great players. Yeah, I play a lot of Marines. I've been playing them for a while. So, now, part of that's like you kind of get to the point where you've kind of tuned that list to the nth degree, and you're making little 5-point adjustments here and there. There's a lot of story we could talk about how much I'll agonize over 5 points, but once you kind of do that, it becomes second nature, and you play so many games. We play 2 to 4 games a week, every week against like top opponents, and you're just constantly grinding it out to figure out how your army works, how does it beat the new combo, and once you kind of do that, it's that part of the game becomes second nature, and you're really now playing against your opponent. You're really looking at different things in the midst of the game, and you're not really thinking about what my army can do and how much damage it can do and how do I split priority. That's not a prime part of your thinking. So that really goes a lot into the game.
Yeah, you've got a lot of great players around here, and I mean, going over to your house, you've got 3 tables set up, so it's great to be able to go and play and with great people that you see up at the top. You just won overall at Warzone Giga-Bites this past weekend, so congrats on that. It's always astounding to see how you come out on top with the sportsmanship, and you do a hell of a job painting, because you're usually painting through the night before events, even trying to get the last bit done. So it's very good to see that you put the effort in, and you deserve to win, obviously. Me, I try to do that, but I can't stay up all night like you and paint, so I'll give you kudos on that one.
Well, you were right there behind me. I mean, actually, you passed me up in battle points, so it came down to the sports to kind of take that top prize. I did stay up all night painting that repulsor tank, so I have a love and hate, but the new rules, we'll get into that a little bit. It kind of really helps that a little bit, but it ended up performing well. I kind of had some list regret. I changed my list at the last minute to try to put in that executioner, and then I was forced to kind of have to get it all painted the night before, so I was like really kicking myself. But it ended up doing great. I had some good matches. My opponents were fantastic. I was hooping and hollering. We had crowds around the table because we were constantly cheering and jumping around, and had really good games. I ended up going 4-1, and against a real tough group of opponents. So they were all great, and I was able to do well. So I appreciate it. It was fun. That's all I ended up wanting to do, was have some fun. And,
so after Adepticon, you placed 7th, and then there was a bunch of reports on the internet about, on Reddit and everything, about your list and how you play Marines, and then Forge World, and even probably so much as the China Cast guys were blowing Venators off the table and out of the labs. So again, kind of to echo what Red says, it takes skill to play it, and if you're not sure how to put that skill into use, you're just going to be stuck with some blue guys on the table getting shot off the board. But what was your best game, your hardest game at Warzone Giga, and who was it with?
Probably my best and hardest game. The one loss against Doug. Doug,
Pennington.
Yes. So he's like my nemesis now. We've kind of diced off. He has a 3 Crusader night list with Imperial Guard. That list beat me last time at Warzone Giga-Bites by like a dice roll. We had a crazy up and down game. But my other game that was really the kind of the crown jewel of the weekend was against Chris Blackham. He was playing Gene Stealer Cult. He's a very strong player. He's been playing the Eldar Flyers, and he really wanted to just stop playing that, play something new. He switched over to Gene Stealer Cult, and I knew with my list, which is very few models, that was going to be a very difficult challenge. there was a relic, there was, kill points. It was going to be tough, and that game was back and forth the whole way, and I ended up pulling out, going to turn 7. So great game. Very
cool. So just those 2 players alone that you just mentioned, those speaking of talent that we have down here in the Southeast, Blackham is, I believe, in ITC ranked around 5th or so in the top 5. And then Henningsen, I believe, is top 50 right now. Still moving up. I played him round 5, so excellent opponent. Last time, the same thing with me, and like you said, he's had my number in previous years, but this year I was able to take him. So, but good deal, man. Congrats on that. And what we're gonna do is move right on in. You've been playing some with all the leaks and everything. You've been playing the new Smurfs a little bit, to the extent of new rules and trying new things out and seeing what happens to the chicken little kind of thing with rowboat and drop pods and all that. So why don't you give us a little bit of rundown, probably about a 5-minute rundown or so of the games that you've tested out. What's good, what's bad, what's to be expected.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because we live in a world where the book's not even out yet, and we've already played a practice game. So I guess I'm lucky enough that we got enough good information that we can, form a reasonable expectation of what the rules are going to look like. And you had enough time to go through it and actually put some models on the table and play. And so it was actually an interesting game because there's another guy that I play with and work with, Damian Owens, that plays Ultramarines kind of in his past life. He's been really an AdMech guy for the last year or two. But he busted out the Ultramarines. So we had an Ultramarines on Ultramarines battle. And so we got to see kind of a lot of different mechanics. He had a lot of different units than me. I kind of took my existing list and tweaked it a little bit just to kind of put some flavor and try out the mechanics more than just the new units. Trying out the doctrines and how that works and some of the new powers from the libraries and the Ultramarine Indominus, tree. And it was really good. So kind of real quickly, the Ultramarines power of, once it's the tactical doctrine, and we can go into doctrines. You got the Devastator doctrine, you got the tactical doctrine, you got the assault doctrine. The Ultramarines are good because they can recycle those. The regular Marines, you can back up the tree, and once you kind of start with the game, every turn you have the option, if you want, to switch it to the next one, but you can't make it go back unless you use a stratagem. But you get different bonuses based on those doctrines, and it really buffs up the units. You'd be surprised on an extra minus AP on a bolter, or the ability to move without penalty, or an extra attack here or there based on the different units, how much different that makes the army play. And you're used to units doing certain things, and all of a sudden you have this little extra buff. Regular bolters getting -1 AP, -1 AP getting -2, heavy bolters -2, right? A tank, a predator now be able to move and fire without penalty. All of a sudden units that were kind of subpar, even though they're the same points, become really powerful. So, and drop pods are one of those things where the internet's really crazy. They're like, hey, drop pods everywhere. It's going to be great. It's going to be OP. Everyone's jumping on the bandwagon of all drop pod lists. I mean, me, first glance, looking at it, playing against it, very strong. But there are certainly very big weaknesses on an all pod list. Even just having the pods in general, from an assault perspective, you're also a liability. So they're a strength and a liability. And then knowing how to screen and really drop those units back a turn forces a lot of new decisions. So I'm interested to see how they do it, if pods will be able to drop, all the way to turn 6, versus if they're going to make them have to come in by turn 3.
So me and you, I was watching your game yesterday, and we even went into the discussion of how TOs are going to run this, and this is a very important situation. Whether they're going to make you, if you drop one drop pod and the doors pop open, are they going to make you do them all that way and play them, equally that way? I believe that's the way it should be played, just because you can't use and abuse one rule and then not do it the other way around. So what, did you guys ended up talking that through, and what was the deciding factor you guys did?
Yeah, so from my list, I personally it didn't affect me one way or the other. I think Damien and I kind of decided that he wanted to keep it consistent. So he went ahead and dropped the door. Did he drop the doors? No, he left the doors closed. He left the doors closed. I think he wanted to drop next to a ruined wall, and that would cause him to kind of have to tighten it up, and he didn't want the other one to be open and that one closed. So he ended up leaving them all closed. But in his list, so I have my standard kind of 2 Venators, a Leviathan. I added a bunch of, infiltrators and scouts, Thunderfire cannon, kind of the mainstays. He added the drop pods with some double grav devastators. He had 2 Redemptors. He did not use the new Invictus ones. He was just trying out his old ones just to kind of see how they worked, just because he had them painted. And his big thing was, he had a unit of Vanguard veterans, which I kind of was dismissed. Pulled them up with Storm Shields and Thunder Hammers, a bunch of double chainsword guys. And I won the role to go first. I had zoned him out for drop pods, so he could not shoot at my tanks on turn 1. Between the infiltrators, you think I'm just going to drop in your face and block the whole board with drop pods. Marines have the ability to block other Marines. So you're going to see a lot of Marines blocking other Marines. You're going to see people just adding in Marines just to stop the drop pod menace. 1 unit of infiltrators, that can really screw up some drop pods, right? Like the grab guys can drop and shoot at the infiltrators, but not necessarily shoot at anything that they want to. So now you have to stagger your pods, and how effective is that going to be? But I wanted to see what he can do and what his units were going to do with the Vanguard vet. So I let him go first just to kind of see that unit in action and wanted to shoot him off the board first turn. He ran up the veterans, charged the guys, hostage my infiltrators, and the new Tigerius, I'm telling you, I'm super excited. He's really buffed for an extra 15 points. He's kind of been a mainstay in my list. I use his abilities to the utmost. The new changes, man, he's really, really good. So if you don't know, if you haven't seen any of the points, I won't go too far down the rabbit hole here, but he went from 115 to 130. He got the Primaris treatment, so he's an extra wound, an extra attack. He still has all his normal abilities, but he got some buffs to it. So he's +1 to cast and +1 to deny. So he already rerolls fails. That's pretty strong. The main powers that I'm always casting, Mighty Heroes, it's the same, +1 toughness. Veil of Time, Psychic Fortress, those are really great powers. But Null Zone is the real winner. They really changed that. They dropped it from Warp Charge 8 to Warp Charge 7. Now with Tigerius getting a +1, it's even easier for him to get it off. And they changed it to units within 6 instead of models. So everybody that has an invulnerable save, you're much more likely a unit of Grotesques, unit of Plague Bears. No zone becomes a real big problem. Whereas before you're like, I get 1 guy in range. Now I just get 1 guy in range, and that whole unit loses their invul.
So I'm going to hit at something real fast because you kind of put a good target on there, but the ability to charge first turn with a lot of different armies now that have the ability to do that, and then these new Marines that are scouted up basically or infiltrating. Yep. They can be just as much as a liability as they can be to do anything that's going to help you. Like you said, and as watching your game, you were talking about you should have moved them backwards and got them out of the range, but that's a big deal when you're talking about, even some of these guys thinking about taking Marines top tables, because you could make one bad move and then, 90 Plague Bearers start grabbing and hugging your dudes in the middle of the board, and you don't ever shoot them, right?
Anyone who's good at assault, they know how to take models hostage. You throw some screening models up there, unit of scouts, unit of infiltrators. If they're fast moving, they can get a hold of those guys. They're very easy to take hostage. So, I mean, in my example, I kind of knew because I let him go first, and he set his guys up, 12-inch jump pack guys, and I'm forward deployed, right? So it didn't take much to get to me. But one of the things that Tigerius changed was his ability now used to be just the shooting phase, -1 to hit. Now it's the beginning of the battle round, and you're -1 hit throughout the battle round. So he popped that on those Vanguard vets, so they went and took me hostage, and now they're -1 to hit, even though they're way far away from gear is. So it caused it caused some difference. He didn't really, he pulled his punches so that he could take them hostage. So I thought I'd get a lot of attacks, but I -1 to hit, toughness 4. I just didn't do enough damage to make it matter, and he was able to break through during my turn, and then jump and attack me in full force with that unit, caused a lot of disruption in my second turn. So it was a big deal. But the new things, again, Vanguard veterans, you're like, well, who cares? A couple of attacks, Thunderhammers, they're not that great. But with the shock assault, getting the extra attacks, put a tactical doctrine, now they're an extra minus AP. Those guys can do quite a bit of attacks, quite a bit of damage, a little bit more than you're kind of used to.
While playtesting, did you feel dirty like you were Eldar?
No, I didn't feel like that. So of course, Rowboat took some changes. He's not quite the reroll king that he used to be. So I got a lot of personal texts and a lot of memes, and everybody was dancing in the streets, trying to take my tears away. So a little sad, but he's still good. He's still super good. He's in my list. Will he stay in my list? I think probably, but I think there's definitely lots of other options now, which I think is great for other Marines. It's not just like if I'm playing Marines, I have to play Gilliman. That should never be the case. I just happen to like Ultramarine, so that just worked out for me. But I think there's a lot of different options now. But while he lost the reroll everything wounds place, he just rerolls 1s. He came down a little bit of points, and then that buff to the hits is a big deal. Rerolling all the hits with all the modifiers out there, that changes a lot. So a lot of the things that were super scary, Eldar specifically with the planes, that's not nearly as bad. If you're rerolling 3s versus 4s, if you're rerolling it, you're in a lot better shape than you just miss with a bunch of 3s. So.
Did you also, between the two of you, I know both of you had Rowboat. How did you take him? Because now he supposedly doesn't work in the auxiliary slot.
So we kind of realized that kind of mid-game, and so we were playing it a little off. We were kind of testing things, so we didn't have the book there in our hands. But yeah, if you take him in the aux, he doesn't get the benefit of the doctrines or the chapter tactics. So in the old rules, he never actually had chapter tactics because he's a monster.
Right.
And a lot of people miss that. So he could never back up from combat and then still shoot. But he's Rowboat, so that usually he's always fighting. He's not really trying to back up.
You don't necessarily want to back that guy up.
Yeah, exactly. So, most of the time it didn't come up, but every now and then you go like, what? He doesn't get the +1 leadership or the fallback and shoot. So in our game, really, that comes back to the doctrines. Like his bolter doesn't get an extra -1 AP. He can't get an extra AP on his fighting. So, without taking him in a supreme command, which neither of us did, those things really didn't come into effect. So it's a little bit different, but most of it is really just honestly pretty much the same.
Okay, cool. So you think they're going to be legit contenders once people play them, maybe?
Yeah, so there's so many good things in the book. And at first glance, you kind of look at the points and you're hoping for all these big drastic changes. Some things went down, some little gems in there that you see. Reavers went down 2 points. No one ever sees Reavers, 16 points model. I think that's a super bargain. Their ability to stack the leadership buff, which leadership in 40K and 8th edition sometimes doesn't seem to matter that much, but -3 leadership on certain things, especially if you're attacking and stuff, could mean a big deal. A couple more models die, and that last Plague Bearer dies, so he doesn't get to roll the 1 to come back. So that's those things matter quite a bit. Stern Guard coming down with their points, so the models themselves did not go down, but the guns are free now. So when you're talking about Stern Guards in a pod, those guys are super efficient, real cheap. So those are great in the screens. Yeah. So those guys came down. Intercessors, the new Rhino, the Impulsor, I think it's called, the ability to take a 4-up and vulnerable save and have the grab, -2 to charge. That's a great screen. Talk about not getting taken hostage, where you take some infiltrators and throw them out there. Someone grabs them, you take the Rhino out there, and you're like, now charge my -2 Rhino, and I just fly away. Shoot it with a big tank, I might make my 4-up vulnerable saves, and you didn't really kill anything, right? So a lot a lot of interesting things, and some of it's really interesting. Is really good against other Marines, right? So it's like I have all these powers to block other Marines. So as you'll see more Marines come out, you'll see the things that come up to counter the Marines.
Yeah. So that's a big thing I've seen has been exactly what you're saying, Thomas, is that Marines have become their own worst enemy. Like, don't mind Chaos Space Marines and whatever else. Like, it's literally like Marine on Marine action is going to be some of the nastiest stuff because of how much AP they have, and then also the board control capabilities. Like, we know, okay, Chaos has Nurglings. That's what they're going to use for board control to block things out. But just like you said earlier, Space Marines, between infiltrators and drop pods, it's just going to be a race to see who can put what out and get it where they want. I mean, it's exactly, and it's the crazy thing is just like you said, let's say drop pods aren't as crazy as the hype has put them out to be. The fact is that people are still going to bring them, and it's still going to be something that you have to prepare for in the meta, right? It's still something that you have to anticipate that a drop pod's going to come somewhere. Yeah, they're
going to come, and they're going to come probably in force. And don't get me wrong, drop pods are awesome. In the right scenario, the right matchup, they can just be devastating. The amount of different guys you can drop down. It doesn't even have to be a drop pod. You can combo that with all the Phobos guys, the little dreadnoughts that can cheat up the Invictus guys.
Little dreadnoughts. Phobos dreadnoughts. We call them Phobos dreads on this show, all right?
Phobos dreadnoughts. Yeah, I mean, all those guys can be in your face turn one. You can get a chaplain +2 charge. You can really force a lot of action on turn one, which is, you kind of got the safety blanket of no reserves and stuff coming in on turn one. You can kind of move, and you're just getting shot, basically, unless you deploy too close to the edge. You're not going to get assaulted. With Marines, that's not the case, right? I'm deploying 9 inches from the board edge. I'm getting bonuses to charge. I'm getting power armor guys everywhere, and they're cheap enough that if you really want to do a heavy infantry list, you could do it, and it's going to be exciting. I'm excited to try it. I haven't really used a lot of infantry. Got a lot of vehicles. All the vehicles in Marines got better with the way the doctrines work. Able to move and shoot. The new executioner tank. The counting is stationary if you're playing Ultramarines for aggressors, and for the repulsor executioner. Mm-hmm. Some of those things are crazy good. The amount of bullets they can put out. Aggressors with -1 assault bolters. I mean,
that's ridiculous.
Crazy.
Moving and double shooting because they, by turn 2 they're assumed to be standing still.
Yeah, Hellblasters that are out of range now, jumping out of a little, grab and right up, and now getting to shoot you.
An impulsor running up and dumping out, 5 or 6, 5 with a lieutenant or 6 of them.
Yeah, lots of different things, and I'm really excited to see what the different chapters do. Of course, I'm an Ultramarine guy through and through, so I'll probably stick with the Ultras. But the White Scars are out. There's lots of great stuff in the book. The psychic powers, having that different option. The way they do powers is interesting because you have your Phobos kind of tree. You have your basic Marine powers. They're still the same Librarius kind of powers, and then you have each individual chapter has their own set of powers.
Special.
And so, when you're a librarian, you have the option of your main book and then the new chapter book. So you can't mix and match powers.
I was about to ask that because I hadn't seen that yet.
Yeah. You can't mix and match the powers unless you take a relic, but you can't. So you can swap out. So if I'm the Phobos librarian, I can either choose to know all the Phobos powers or know all the chapter powers, right? So Tiberius, he's like, I know all the Librarius powers, or I know all the Phobos or the other powers. Ultramarine power. So it's mix and match. So you have some good powers in there that you really want to think about. Hey, do I want to take a second librarian to have access to these extra powers? Because you can't just cherry pick the ones. And the librarians have come down in cost, so that it's a little bit more attainable if you want to take multiple librarians.
So the next thing that we're going to talk about is kind of the womp womp section where the hype is real, but the excitement's not so real for people like Dark Angel, Blood Angel, and Space Wolf players that are feeling kind of left out, kind of like they're Chaos. But we've had some issues with Chaos players whining about the Marines.
Well, I mean, those guys already had their own psychic powers. Yes.
They've got their own tools.
got a lot of stuff. Why are they all upset? They've been getting a lot of stuff. I mean, I can understand anyone who's not getting the new hotness, they're kind of left behind. And, you know, Marines are the poster boys, and them being at the kind of the, from a tournament perspective, kind of lower in the tiers, you kind of knew their day was going to come, right? And, you know, they're going to really roll out the red carpet. But if you're Eldar and you're like, I've been dominating, but I haven't got a new model in a long time, like, you're not going to get many people, you know, crying tears for you, you know. No, so it's kind of and Necrons and, you know, all those guys that Tyranids, they need some love, right? They haven't got anything updates in their books, new models in a while, and you have this whole new Marine lease. It's definitely hard, right? If those are your prime models.
This, honestly.
I mean, I know Red and I will not complain if they brought out the Silent King. Worth a shot.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good place for GW to be, to bring out this the Marines right now. Like you said, the poster boys. After seeing them very much so underperform in tournament scenes, and honestly, the only time you really see them for the most part is on narrative type games.
Yeah.
This should change a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, they're really going to shake up the meta. I mean, the book is really good. If you haven't seen any of it yet, it comes out this weekend. The book is really good.
So I read a lot of it, and the thing that I'm excited about are there are so many new options that early on you're going to see a lot of different builds on Space Marine armies.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're not playing one of the main factions that have to build your own chapter, you can kind of pick and choose traits. So if you really have some little combos that you kind of find as gems, you can really kind of tailor your army to take advantage of that. So there's some really neat things in there. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we can cook up here, what folks across the internet kind of come up with, and what percolates to the top and what becomes the strong builds. I mean, there's always going to be a counter. That's kind of how the way this game works. But just being able to keep it fresh and bring a new thing to the tournament scene is always exciting.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, going back to the Dark Angels and Blood Angels and Space Wolves, they got actually a lot of cool stuff out of this. That
a lot of the new units they got.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you get a little free buff, you know, without getting any new things to their books. You know, all those extra attacks, all those extra units that they didn't have access to before. If you don't like Primaris, maybe it's not as super cool, but there's a lot of cool stuff in there that can really make those armies a little bit more competitive than they were before.
And that's kind of the point that I was going to hit, is like they got free stuff without having to go buy a whole new army. So there's a lot of good to that was being overlooked in a lot of ways on the internet from some of those players. And I say this, I challenge them to look at the Primaris, you know, come up with cool creations and list designs, but there's a ton of nice things that they got out of being just associated with these, you know, including like look at Dark Angels, right? Dark Angels with all their plasma and their stratagems for beefing up the plasma, jumping out of impulsors.
Well, Hellblasters coming out of impulsors, Inceptors with the plasma guns dropping down in your face. That's an unpleasant thought.
Hey, so this one, right? This one stratagem, I know this just builds on everything, right? Transhuman physiology. Have you guys seen that one?
Yes.
2 CP. Essentially, you choose a unit. It's not a vehicle or servitor that is a target of an attack, and they ignore 1s through 3 to wound, right? And so it's an Adeptus Astartes unit. And so, like, as far as I'm tracking right now, like all of the other guys have that, right? Blood Angels, Space Wolves, Dark Angels. And so when you consider, say, whether it's Terminators like Deathwing or Wolfen and Space Wolves or White Scar Bikes or Blood Angel, Death Company or whatever, I mean, there's all kind of, I'm just throwing it out there. But you use something like that across the board, I mean, you're talking about a super tank.
So the question is, do those other books get access to the generic stratagems out of this one?
That's like I don't know if they get the strat.
Right.
So
that's my question. Do they get them? They get the units and they get Angels of Death and they get Shock Assault, but do they get the stratagems?
Currently, right, we got to see the wording. The wording, because right now, Chaos Space Marines, right, you bring Death Guard, you bring Chaos Space Marines, Death Guard can have access to some of the Chaos Space Marine stratagems,
Gotcha.
right?
So
Because they're heretic Astartes.
The real question, just like he just said, that the reading on it says Adeptus Astartes unit.
Right.
Exactly.
So it doesn't matter if they get access. If you take someone with access, you can still cast it on them, as long as they have the keyword.
Right. So if I bring Space Wolves,
cross-pollinating.
you just got to understand you lose
add
the combat doctrine, right?
You unlock the strats with the Marine book, and then you have some Wolfen that are nearby, and you say stratagem on those guys. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that'd be strong. That's pretty
No
strong.
wounds on 1, 2, 3s. I mean, that's super strong. Half the wounds are not going to go through. Crazy, crazy stuff.
All right, so we've covered a lot tonight. We've covered a lot of the new stuff. Thunderfire cannons, you tried that out.
Thunderfire's always been a mainstay. Tremor shell's still the same, so that's good. But having a Thunderfire cannon become a 2+ armor save, and the little Tech Marine guy going up to 4 wounds, and it now hitting on 2s. So I mean, it
shoots twice, right?
There is a stratagem. It's for the Whirlwind or Thunderfire cannon for 2 CP, so it's a little pricey, but you can shoot again. The only restriction on the second shooting is it has to target something out of line of sight, which, surprise, surprise, you're always doing that. So not a big deal. But having the Thunderfire cannon shoot again, I don't think you can try pop the Tremor shell a second time. Obviously, it's a separate stratagem, and it says when you target it, so the wording doesn't sound like it applies multiple times, but at least shooting it twice in those situations where it matters, that's a pretty big deal.
So I know you're an Ultramarine player, but you've also got access to a lot of other stuff in the dungeon down there. If you were playing Ultramarines with this new codex, what would be your second pick?
With the new codex, so if I was playing a different Marine chapter?
The new codex.
That's a tough one because we haven't seen all the other powers. So I do have powers.
So having seen what you've seen with the Ultramarine book and having seen what you've seen maybe with the White Scar book, assuming they're going to be equivalent as far as the flavor of those chapters, maybe that's a better way to ask that.
Man, if you like vehicles a lot, Iron Hand seems the way to go.
It does.
Those guys with the grade profile, with the different tanks, the stratagems to buff up the tanks, the movement penalties, and all the things that go away.
Hitting on 5s and 6s in Overwatch.
Super durable. Yeah, you get the defensive fire where you can, I charge one thing and 3 nearby pop the kind of a Tau power and 3 guys help out to Overwatch. Whew, that's a lot of bullets,
So around
as
here,
a guy who plays few models, and I like to keep my models alive. That's an army that's all about durability. So that's a real strong one.
I see that being a really good tournament army, especially for the against the Alpha, having the durability. Iron Hand seems like a definite way to go if you want to have firepower but have the durability as well. Similar to the Necrons, with all the quantum shielding type situations.
I could tell you, the White Scar stuff, just charging, even if it's not bikes. I mean, I'm hoping they'll come out with some Primaris bikes. That would be fantastic. But Marines with an extra attack, you wouldn't think that that's a big deal. It doesn't sound like a lot, but I played some Primaris Marines, the Intercessors, the veteran ones before, with just 3 attacks before the new book came out. Now they potentially can have 4 or 5 attacks each. Wow, does that make a difference? It makes those guys feel like so much more, and it makes them feel like Marines running around. So it's really fun to play with those guys.
My biggest fear with the White Scars is they become an Alpha Strike only army, and if you don't get first turn, you kind of lose.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a risk, right? It was in the past with the scouts or any forward deploys. Now you have a lot more options to forward deploy. You put them up there and you don't go first. They're very vulnerable to getting wrecked. So it definitely lends itself to that hard Alpha Strike, but it also lets you up for, if I don't go first, that coin flip game, so smart players will know how to mitigate that. But, a lot of new players may just fall for that little trap of I'm all in and, roll the dice on if I win or lose based on that first deployment, right? And that's not necessarily the best way to go about it.
Well, so you can, and correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't seen the exact wording on it, but there is a jink stratagem, right?
There is the I redeploy, rapid redeploy.
There's a rapid redeploy, but there's also an invuln save one, right? Like if they advance or whatever, they can get like a 4-up or 3-up invuln.
Yeah. So I was talking about even just from the first deploy, if you set up and realize you're not going first, they kind of have a stratagem that's like the Eldar. It's 2 command points, I believe, that you can pick up 3 units and move them. You can really like, I'm putting your face. Oh, I'm not going first. I'm going to hide these guys now. So, but yeah, White Scars, I think it has the one with the bonus for the invulnerable save.
Yeah, but the key word is you have to advance, which again you're referring to. You need turn 1 in order to get that off. Very similar to Plague Bears being -2 or whatever. You've got to have that turn before you can do that. So definitely that's probably the downside of me looking at the White Scars is the weakness of possibility of if you don't get first turn, you're kind of left out in the wind a little bit. The redeploy does help a little bit, but then it could set you backwards a little bit if you mess up the redeploy. My thing is I think the we kind of talked about it, but with cohorts, out of the vigilance and such, anything that has one of those already, this is just more ammo to the fire. With such great firepower that they've been showing up in tournaments lately, this gives them an extra edge, and they've got a lot more tools to work with on the cohort type situation. So I think the Iron Hand thing may be a second, but you go into the fist, the Crimson Fist, and the
Imperial Fist, for sure.
Fist, yeah. So we'll see what happens.
Great. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. So I'm a very purist as far as modeling perspective. So I have multiple Marine armies, and they're all painted their real colors. So I don't have any kind of this guy is gray and green, and I call him whatever chapter of the day I'm playing. No, if I'm playing Marines, they're going to be their actual colors. So I have red Blood Angels, I have blue Ultramarines, I have black Raven Guard, I have green Salamander, I have all of the Marine flavors. So if I want to pick one of those, I'm committing to painting those guys all the way. So I'm a little hesitant, just to swap my rules to the best rules.
It must be nice. It must be nice. I'm just saying, I admit I'm of the crowd. I have my own homebrewed chapter. They're gunmetal with gold trim and whatever other color stuff I want to put on there. And I'll admit, in 7th edition they were Iron Hands, but back in 5th edition they were Blood Angel successors, and so but I don't have multiple colors, and so my guys when I play they're all the same thing, whatever they are. I don't bounce, I don't mix and match.
Yeah, so more power to you, man. I just personally, that's a personal preference. I have no problem with someone, no one has unlimited money. So, having one army to be, multiple things based on the rules, that's totally fine. My only kind of concern or, hope for folks out there that are playing is if you have your homebrew guys that you're not trying to, these guys are Iron Hands, and then these other guys that are painted exactly the same are Ultramarines, right? That's where you kind of run into the problems in the tournament.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
They've got to be separate colors if you're using different detachments.
Yeah.
There's one thing that I haven't seen in your list in a long time, and they're making a big comeback, in my opinion, once the codex drop, is chaplains. What's your thought?
Oh, yeah. Chaplains are super good. Of course, I'm Ultramarine, so they have Cassius. He's a special chaplain. He gets 2 extra rules, 2 prayers or whatever they're called. So it may be that, I'm taking more and more of the named guys, but if you're definitely running a lot of infantry, those guys are great. If you're doing a lot of assaults, and you want that plus to charge, all the other armies have some bonus to charge, some instrument on demons, or, some banner to give them an extra +1, genes to the cult, +1 or +2, Marines are oh, I drop in 9 inches. I hope I can roll a 9. Now they have a way to mitigate that and get extra. So it's really exciting. Gives people coming in from pods or just deep striking in, Vanguard vets and jump packs, a way to come in and actually still make the charge. +2 to charge with that chant. Now you got to be on the board, so you got to get that guy positioned in the right place. He can't come in the pod and do it that same turn. He's got to be on the ground to start with. But
I'm not saying I'm ready for that, but I do have a Raven Guard chaplain with a jump pack.
They're going to be super.
Yeah, dust off. They're literally dusty because I haven't ever used those chaplains in 3 or 4 years, but they're ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, with the shock attack and the chaplain litany, that alone, plus the ability that they already come with the relic Crozius, things like that are just nice. You throw a jump back on them, and if you can cast Might of Heroes, and you're talking just monster attack, 7 attacks, strength 9, AP -3, 4 damage a pop on a chaplain.
Oh yeah. It's nuts. It's like, and you even if it's not like a bike guy or jump pack guy, that new Primaris chaplain, like he's been sitting on my shelf for a while. Like he's so awesome. I'm like, I have time build lists just because of specific models I really like. I'm like, I'm gonna make a way to make this guy good. That model's awesome. So he deserves some real play time, and it's fun that see the chaplains be worth something now when they've been just so marginalized.
I mean, take 3 of those Primaris chaplains, right, and put them in a impulsor, and sling those guys up, and just start beating face. 4 damage here, 4 damage there, with 3 of them. It's a little mini Death Star now again. I mean, they thought they got rid of Death Stars.
I don't know. Monster. It's still a character. If you don't have screens, they'll just get killed. But yeah, I mean, they're definitely. You want a guy to actually be able to fight, right? And so, like a Marines, they should be, scary on the tabletop. You don't want just one guy running around loose. And those guys are definitely, with all their own rerolls and the powers that they can cast on themselves, buff each other up with the dim prayers. It can be really strong.
Definitely, most definitely. All right, well, we're running out of time. I know we could probably talk for days on this stuff, but we've hit a lot of points tonight. Is there anything else you were interested in talking about as far as just the Marine stuff in general?
One more thing on the pods, because I know everyone's really excited about drop pods, and I kind of hinted that I did not think it was all that. I mean, one of the kind of the biggest drawbacks that I don't really see a lot of people talking about for drop pods is how easy they are to assault and how easy they are to abuse in that phase. So if I'm a big shooting army and I drop down and drop a pod, the opponent, all they got to do is run up and touch that drop pod. They're not that hard to kill. They don't explode. They don't have that many wounds.
You don't have to take it hostage.
Yeah, I'm on base. I'm on base. I touch it and I'm safe. Right. You cannot, because I'm in combat, right? So those guys are dropping forward. They're really risky,
We were talking about this a little bit also, you take the people like the Jim Vessels and the John Lennons who play assaulting armies right now. They are actually in love with these things coming back because it's free money and free points for them in tournaments because you do the thing called the pinwheel, right, where you just have one guy go up and just kind of touch it, and then the rest kind of pinwheel around the whole table, and they touch whatever they want, and you can't shoot them.
Yeah, free movement. You get a boost. You jump start off those dreadnoughts or drop pods, and you get a longer charge on something else. They can definitely hinder you. And if you make your army the full null deploy, all drop pods, what happens when you get that matchup where someone just controls the board and then runs up, and now you don't have any place to drop, or they force you to drop your pods in the wrong place?
We were talking earlier about Marines being potentially their own worst enemy. You've got enough infiltrators on the board, you're closing out a huge swath of board for drop pods to even come near.
Yeah.
If you get first turn with that much blocked out of the table, there's nowhere to ever drop except for back in their deployment zone on their line.
Yeah, it's real risky. So I mean, everyone talking about all pods. I don't want to burst the bubble, but there's definitely a lot of holes in that strategy. So just think about that while you're building up your list or dusting off the old drop pod.
How many? It'd be a real shame if some berserkers hugged it.
Oh no, I knew you guys were that. You're just asking the berserker guys who now get extra attacks because they need more attacks to just come up and touch some drop pods so they can be safe from all that shooting for turn 1, and then just come out and kill it and go on.
I bet Adam Abramowitz is gonna hate the next time he plays against some Khorne berserkers because he'll get into like turn 1 if he plays someone like Red.
I mean, I'm not running 60 of them anymore, but I'm still running a healthy amount, and I do owe him a rematch, so I'm sure I'll give him plenty of opportunity to
now,
wipe
now
me.
you have 4 attack feats.
Well, I mean, yeah.
So Thomas, how many
on,
Invictus are you gonna run?
show match? So we got Warzone coming up, and one of the things I wanted to do, I don't want to segue into that too quickly, but that we'll have long wars on Friday before the big event on the weekend. But we also want to probably kind of start talking about some matches on Friday that are just going to be show matches that we want to have folks come out that never get to play, or maybe some celebrities that if you want to play against so and so, or play against me, I'll be happy to set that up so we can have a fun game without any of the tournament stuff going on.
That's awesome.
I may have to take you up on that now that Rowboat's rules changed.
You got Tuesday night every Tuesday, but bring it on, buddy. We'll play every.
Hey, look, we have 2 ties. We need to clear that out.
Right, that's right. I am 2-2 or 2 draws. It's every time.
2 draws. Yep. Every time.
2 draws against Bob.
So, how many Invictus Dreadnoughts, as AKA from what Red says, Phobos Dreadnoughts, are you gonna try to run with Rowboat?
So whenever something new comes out, I usually just buy 3 of it just because, and then it's in my shelf. So if I ever get a wild hair, I'll have it on hand. But I think those guys are great in en masse. So I definitely would want 2 or 3 at the start, just because I usually don't go with 3 in any list. I don't like to have 3 of any one thing. I think they start with 2. And if they can do it, then I have more points for something else to spread it around a little bit. But those guys infiltrating up, the problem that I always had with Phobos guys is, they're not threatening enough by themselves to do damage first turn, charging into your face. But now with draw pods, those guys, and the dreadnoughts, now you have a whole bunch of threat that you can really overload the opponent with and force some bad decisions. And it's really interesting. And they're strong. I mean, they're not going to just kill anything all by themselves, but piling up those attacks, extra attacks now, 5 attacks on a charge, flat free damage. They're pretty good. I'm excited about it.
So I've got an interesting question for you. I think that the way that the new codex has come out, and with the new, let's say, new dreadnought, new repulsor executioner and such, that you can almost phase out people trying to put Forge World stuff in their list with these equivalents. What would you say?
Well, there's certainly some good choices in Forge World. I know, like the Custodes beta, rules for the tanks. Those guys are super point efficient. The Caladius grab tanks, their ability to block out with the grab, it makes some armies very difficult to charge. But now you have really good choices. The points aren't necessarily there, like from a point-to-point comparison, but with all the doctrines and other abilities you get with it, and the synergies you can mix with other units, it starts becoming a tough call of which one's actually better. For me, I think you'll see a lot of like pure Marine armies, because you get that benefit. To get those doctrines, you have to take an all Astartes army. It doesn't have to be all Ultramarines. You can mix and match the chapters, but it does kind of lend the, well, I need a little bit of better fighting, so I'm going to put some White Scars in here with the Ultramarines for this long range shooting, or maybe I want the vehicles to be Iron Hands so that they're a little bit tougher. But to get those doctrines, you're really not going to mix in the
everybody has to have angels. Everybody has to have the Angels of Death rule, unless I'm mistaken.
That's right. So pretty exciting. So you'll see some all Marine forces, and not just like I got the Loyal 32 or the AdMech bolt-on to kind of add to it.
Right, and the jury's still out right now, I believe, across the internet at least, on whether or not the assassin takes away your abilities to do that. It's still up. It's.
I mean, we got to see all the wording, right? We got to see all the wording. From what's been leaked, though, it seems pretty conclusive.
Yeah, the little birdie says the strat will be okay, but if you take it any other form, it won't. But we'll see how it really shakes out once they kind of update the facts. I'm hoping. Here's hoping, because the assassin is so key and clutch that you can have that option to swap it out. Some armies are list that thing can be
Calidus assassin.
Yeah, you should have called. You asked Chris about assassin.
So is the Calidus worth taking if you lose your doctrines.
I don't think so.
I don't. Not if you lose the doctrines. The doctrines are so strong. You guys don't understand how strong that is to be able to move with a Leviathan and not have a negative penalty, or have it make it -3 on its shooting, or any of that stuff. Shoot twice without counting as moving. It's you got to have the doctrines.
All right. Well, I think that kind of wraps everything up. We've talked about everything. We appreciate you coming on. We hope to hear more from you. We do have you doing some more videos coming up for Pro Tabletop, and you're also going to be doing Warzone Atlanta. You're not playing this year. You're going to be on the mic.
That's right. So from a Warzone Atlanta perspective, usually if you haven't been, you should definitely come. I'm normally kind of one of the main kind of personalities that you'll there. It's Warzone's a little different tournament than other tournaments. If you haven't been, it's a really more kind of family and fun tournament. It's very competitive, but there's lots of other ways to have fun and compete and play in the tournament. And I'm usually running around. There's usually some kind of Easter egg hunt or some bounties that involve me personally. So you either be running up, talking to me, or getting my signature on something, or getting a picture with me, or doing something where I'm involved. So you'll definitely get to know me there. So one of my concerns was, if I'm not playing, will people get to see me? But we're definitely going to make it where I'm going to be doing some commentary on the games, and then also running around and running the boards, the bounty boards, and the discussion. So I'm going to be there in full force. It's going to be super fun. And again, like we said, right around the corner from that is Pro Tabletop. So if you haven't heard about that, I think there's still a few tickets left on sale, but the tickets just went on sale a few weeks ago. Maybe last week, I guess.
Last week.
Yeah, maybe last week. So that's the kind of the intent with that league. We do have some videos up where me and the team are discussing it, but it's a real thing. It's happening. We have a place. I've seen it. It's real. We have some high-tier judges on board to kind of run the rules and make sure that we have a legit event. When there's cash prize money on the line, $10,000 for the top 8, and there's going to be some folks that do bad behavior, and we're going to have rules in place to take care of that, right? So mitigate that, because it's still a game, and we want people to play by the rules and not try to get away with it. And we don't want cash to kind of make that any worse than it sometimes can be right now. But we're going to have some new videos coming up in the next week or two. We're waiting on the terrain. I expect to get the terrain this week, and we're going to paint it up. And Damian and I and probably a few other folks are going to run some battle reports with the new Marines, so we can kind of show off the new terrain, and Matt, and talk about the new Marines, and kind of have some armies for you guys to see. And so we're going to start putting out regular content for that as we kind of gear up for the big event.
Excellent. Cool deal. And we'll be looking forward to that. I've already got my ticket, so we'll see you there at least on both those occasions.
Oh yeah, we're excited. We're looking forward to it. I mean, we're trying to make this. It's not just going to be one event, right? So the big thing is, we're trying to make 40K a league where there's professional players getting paid, having sponsors that are actually paying players to play professionally, right? So there's a path to becoming pro, and how do you get there, and future tournaments down the line will rankings and seedings and all that matter. So this is kind of the first step along the path to many. So we're really excited about this new format. We want to make it as successful as we can for everyone, so that they'll want to come back, and we can grow that into a professional league where, if folks want to make a living at playing 40K, that's something we're striving to. And we do have a lot of things that we're going to be coming up with videos to kind of announce some new updates to that coming soon. So be excited, because it's really exciting.
And that was protabletop.com. If you haven't seen or heard about it, go check it out. They've got pictures of the terrain, the mats. They have all the videos up of Thomas and Damian and Brad. So if you have any questions or concerns, they also have a few tickets left. I think you were down to 20 something or 30 something last time I looked, out of 200. So that's a pretty good start.
I think it was.
I'm sorry,
144.
Sorry,
yeah, 144 is the number that we're starting with. But yeah, there's we're getting close to selling out. So if you're interested, definitely go hit the tickets. It is a $200 price tag, so just know it's a little bit more than a normal ticket, but you do get a lot of stuff with that. So watch the videos. We talk all about what you get. There's a lot of information on the website. And again, we'll be posting more videos usually every week. So
I'm excited to see it jump up to a new level of play. To be honest, I know when me and the guys here did our event, you were actually playing in it, and then day 2, you had some stuff come up and couldn't make it, but me and Bobby ended up, doing the commentary for our live stream, and it was very interesting to see how far you want to go into the active judging side of it on a game, because you get to see you're commenting and you're talking, and then you see something, you're like, do I step in or not?
Right.
Then there's cool ability that the Pro Tabletop brings, where they're going to have live stream, but that live stream was very good for us because we were able to stop the game, pause it, and go get the clock reset and be able to rewind it and figure out where the clock stopped at, and then issue yellow cards based off of that. So it's very good to see that, there's a new aspect to the game, and there was an issue with someone getting called out even this weekend on a live stream, and if it wasn't for the live stream, it would have kept on going, right? And that's part of the top table issue that we're having in 40K, and the live stream is just another tool, in my opinion. That's a great great thing to have right now.
It's like having instant replay in sports. You just roll back and take a look. What happened?
I mean, we're super stoked about it. It's exciting. So we're not going to be streaming every table. We're going to be doing 3 tables at Pro Tabletop. I think at Warzone, we're still talking about exactly how many tables we're going to be streaming and commenting on. But we're going to have the full kind of John Madden-esque pad that we can write on the screen, and we'll be talking tactics. We do active judging at Pro Tabletop, so if we do spot something wrong, the players could be sanctioned. It could be it could be just move the model back, or it could be they could get a yellow card. So there's judges that are assigned to the tables. There's going to be a lot of judges, and the screening has been pretty rigorous. We're not just letting anyone come in and be a judge. They're getting screened. There's going to be some training. There's going to be a handbook that shows out all the rules and sanctions ahead of time. So that's getting worked on. We have a lot of judges that are signed up and with a lot of credibility from different events and from over the yeah, it's serious. I mean, these guys are taking it really serious. It's great to see a lot of experience and knowledge coming to the table to kind of write those rules. And I look forward to posting that and having discussions about it, because we want everyone to know ahead of time, so that when the big day comes, it's all for money, but you're also going to be like representing the hobby, because people are going to be watching both on the camera and active judging. So if they catch you doing something wrong, you could be out of the tournament, right? So I'm interested to see how that affects how people's behavior is when there's actual consequences to what happens.
And that's something that the community could heavily use right now is the consequences side of it to some of these accusations or top table situations that have happened recently. What's the next event you're going to, Thomas?
So come the apocalypse, I was able to sneak in on the wait list. So thank you, Robert Chandler. So I was trying to get in, and I wasn't sure if I could make it. That's probably my last tournament, since I'm not playing in Warzone or Pro Tabletop. Those are some big ones kind of later in the year. Atlanta Dragon Con is the same weekend as Nova. So we're here in Atlanta. That usually Dragon Con is not an event that we miss. So that makes going to Nova hard. So that's kind of the next big one that is on. You're going, that's right. So I mean, probably that's my last one of the year, unless there's a small one. But typically we're always going to some out of town or some big major tournament, GT. So I don't really get out too much to the small ones unless it's one of ours. So
we say last of the year though, but last of the season, ITC season.
LVO.
LVO. That'll be
So
my
you're
first
going to
trip.
LVO, right?
He's
First
going to
trip
win
to
it all.
LVO. So we'll see how that goes. We'll have a lot of time to test the new Marines before the big show. So it'll be fun to try to take something new there.
That's a big deal, Thomas.
That'll be good for you because if you can knock off those wannabes in number 1 and 2 spot, right?
That's right. I think unless they posted some new scores, once the scores from my win at Giga-Bites post, I should take the top spot. So it'll be good. The king for a day.
Excellent. Good deal. Well, best of luck to you at Warzone come the apocalypse in October, and look forward to seeing some more videos and stuff from you shortly. And I'm sure we'll have you back on, maybe even you and Damien back on, and let you guys talk a little bit later once you guys get settled in with the terrain and everything.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Take care,
you guys
Thomas.
got anything else for the evening?
No.
About
All
covered
good.
all the stuff till it's beat that horse. All right. Well, we would like to thank Thomas for coming on, and then we also have several different sponsors that we're rolling here. We have the Java Cafe. Thanks for sponsoring us at ATC. We also have our measurements and our turn counters and everything. Those are coming from hammerheadgames.net. Go check out all their equipment for pre-game, during game, accessories. We have our stuff on their website, such as the turn counter with the Alpha Strike logo on it. And if you're in Atlanta or the Georgia area, give a call to State Farm Phil Cone. He's a big supporter of the podcast, and we just wanted to give him a heads up and a shout out. Phil Cone, State Farm, for all your needs. He's helped me out when I got into an accident with all my models in the car, so maybe he can help you. So us here at Alpha Strike, we want to say thanks for listening. Make sure you give us a thumbs up if you like us. Hit us up on Facebook. We are trying to get everything loaded up to YouTube, and we're trying to get our Podbean situated so everything's posted and fixed up there, and then we're trying to get onto iTunes as we keep getting requested. So make sure if you have any questions, comments, concerns, hit us up on Facebook, and we'll return it as soon as we can. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Take care, folks.